The wind wails against the stoned longhouse, rattling its moss-bitten roof like a beast clawing at the bones of the earth. Dusk lies heavy across the fjord, where the tide grinds cold teeth against the rock. The sea is black glass, streaked with dying light. Above it, gulls wheel and cry, their voices thin and distant, ghosts of the waves, mourning something that has not yet lived. Inside, the hearth burns low. Shadows breathe across the carved beams and antler hooks. The air smells of salt, smoke, and old secrets. A hand, gnarled, deliberate, rests upon a chest of ancient oak. Its lid creaks open, releasing a sigh of dust and memory. Within lies a brittle roll of parchment, its surface scarred with strange rune marks that shimmer faintly in the dim glow. The old voice begins, low, patient, weathered, like a priest murmuring through the veil of time. Before the first dawn, there was no light, no song, no motion, only the yawning void, Ginnungagap, where silence devoured even itself. The longhouse fades. The world melts into nothingness, an abyss of drifting frost and whispering flame. In the north, the realm of ice, Niflheim, coils with breathless cold. In the south, Muspelheim roars with living fire. Between them, the void quivers, empty and waiting. From the meeting of these two eternities, cold and flame, death and birth, comes a single drop, then another, then a sound, the hiss of melting. The clash of opposites awakens motion. Ice bleeds into fire. Fire devours the frost, and from the steaming chaos rises a shape, vast and trembling. Ymir, the first being, the unshaped giant. His breath is storm, his sweat is rivers, his body a continent of flesh. As he moves, sparks fall like stars from his back. The sound of his pulse becomes thunder rolling through the dark. From his melting form, life seeps forth. New beings, half-formed, crawling from the warmth of his blood. The narrator's voice lowers, almost reverent. Creation is never gentle. The world is born not from peace, but from hunger. And from the ruin of one life, countless others awaken. A shimmer, and we see again the longhouse fire reflected in a pool of red. The smell of iron fills the air. The whisper of the parchment continues to tell its tale. From Ymir's corpse the cosmos takes shape. His skull, torn open, becomes the sky, vast, pale, and endless. His blood fills the void, a sea without shore. His bones rise into mountains. His teeth scatter into stones. His hair unfurls as forests upon the land. From his brain the clouds drift, forever haunted by the memory of his dying thought. Creation by sacrifice, existence carved from death. The voice trembles with a kind of awe. The first gods knew then, what is given must be taken. What is made must be broken. Nothing in the world is born without a wound. And so, in a cave deep beneath the world, 3 brothers gather, Odin, Vili, and Ve. The light of a single flame dances on the wet stone walls. They sit close, wrapped in wolfskin, their eyes gleaming like blades. Before them lies the whetstone, and on it runes. They carve them slow, careful, into the gray surface, the sound like the whisper of destiny being sharpened. Odin's hand is steady. His brothers breathe in rhythm. Around them the air hums with something vast, as if the words they carve have already begun to bind the world itself. We will shape the middle realm, Odin murmurs, voice almost human in its yearning. Between fire and frost, we will raise a home. From the bones of Ymir they build Midgard, the Middle Earth. From chaos they draw order, and from the endless dark they summon a fragile light. Yet even as they create, they know every birth carries its shadow. The voice deepens, distant, echoing with the ache of prophecy. In the forging of the world, the gods sealed their own doom, for from the same blood that made the mountains, vengeance would one day rise. The scene shifts. The cave fades into a lonely shore, gray waves lapping against pale sand. Driftwood lies scattered, bleached and hollow. There the 3 brothers walk in silence until they come upon 2 pieces of wood, one ash, one elm. Odin kneels. He runs a hand over the coarse grain of the ash. The wood is lifeless, yet patient, waiting. We will make them breathe, says Vili. We will make them feel, adds Ve. Odin lowers his face to the wood. He whispers, words lost to time, and breathes out. The air swirls, faint and golden, filling the hollow forms. The driftwood stirs, eyes open, clouded and unsure. The first man and woman rise from the shore, Ask and Embla, blinking beneath the new sun. The voice softens like embers fading to warmth. Thus men came to be, fragile as bark, yet alive with the spark of gods, born from driftwood and longing, destined to walk a world made from the body of a slain giant. Smoke curls upward from the hearth, as if echoing their breath. A raven glides through the longhouse's smoke hole, wings brushing the air. Its black feathers catch the firelight, a glint of omen. Fate, even now, begins to stir. Outside, the wind rises again. The sea claws against the fjord walls. Beneath it all, something vast moves, roots threading through the dark. The vision shifts once more, and the world opens beneath us. A colossal tree. Its crown pierces the stars. Its roots drink from the blood of giants. Its trunk hums with voices, the living and the dead, the gods and their enemies, all bound within its endless breath. Yggdrasil, the world tree, the axis of all realms. Around it, the 9 worlds shimmer, realms of gods, men, monsters, and the unseen. From its highest boughs, light drips into the heavens. From its lowest roots, shadow bleeds into the abyss. The narrator's voice is hushed now, reverent and solemn. In the beginning, all things were one. Ice and flame, death and birth, root and sky. But the balance is fragile. Even as the gods build, the end begins to whisper. A drop of sap falls like a tear. Somewhere deep below, a serpent coils. The raven caws once, sharp and echoing. The fire in the longhouse crackles and dies to embers. The old hand closes the chest. The parchment folds in silence. Outside, night gathers over the fjord, swallowing the light. Only the sound of the wind remains, ancient, searching, restless. And so the world was born from blood and ash. But under every root of creation lies the seed of its undoing. The camera drifts upward through smoke and cloud toward the trembling boughs of Yggdrasil. The stars burn faintly beyond. The raven circles once more, wings slicing through the dark. A single heartbeat echoes, distant like the pulse of the world itself. Then silence. And in that silence, the promise of the next tale, the coming of the gods, and the first stirrings of fate. Silence, a hush deep enough to hear the breath of the earth. The moss drips with night's last tears, and the trees lean close as if listening to a secret older than their roots. In a hollow stump, candle embers tremble, small, defiant suns in a forest that remembers blood. A lone figure kneels in the grove. Their fingers brush aside wet leaves, cold soil, the small bones of forgotten offerings, until the stone reveals itself. Ancient, sunken, carved with runes that gleam faintly through the moss. The air hums, the forest seems to hold its breath, and the voice begins, low, patient, reverent. This is the tale of the Aesir and the Vanir, of a war fought in the sky and under the sea, of peace forged in smoke and silence. A gull cries in the distance. The scene dissolves into mist. The air grows heavy with salt, and the world tilts toward the sea. We stand before the hall of Njord, the Sea King. Its walls shine with the wet sheen of driftwood and fish oil, its rafters strung with drying nets that whisper with every gust. The floor is slick with sand, the smell of tide and tar thick upon it. Outside, waves break against the shore, steady, unending, like the pulse of the world itself. Njord moves through the hall, barefooted, the sea still clinging to his skin. He is a god of calm waters, of the bounty that feeds men, but his eyes carry the sadness of the horizon, where sea and sky never truly meet. In his hand a frost-bitten token, Skadi's gift, a mountain's shard of ice, unmelting. She is his bride, born of stone and storm. Daughter of a slain giant, she came to Asgard to demand blood for blood. Yet Odin offered her marriage instead of vengeance. She chose Njord for his beauty, not his nature, and so began a union carved by wind and wave. They tried to share a life between their worlds, the mountain and the sea. At first, laughter echoed between cliffs and tide pools. She hunted beneath the auroras, he mended nets by moonlight. But soon the joy turned brittle. Skadi awoke to the crying of gulls and salt in her throat, Njord to the moaning of wolves in snow. She longed for the creak of pine and the glitter of frost, he for the hum of the sea and the song of oars. I cannot sleep for the sound of your sea, she whispered once, voice colder than dawn. Nor I for the silence of your mountains, he answered, though his heart broke even as he spoke. They parted, peacefully, as gods can, but the crack between them never closed. Their story became a wound in the pantheon, a reminder that even divinity cannot bind love against nature's pull. Beyond their sorrow, sunlight spills into another realm, Vanaheimr, the gentle land of the Vanir. Here the air smells of new leaves and honey, and rivers murmur like lullabies. Among these groves walk the children of Njord, Freyr and Freya, radiant and strange. Freyr's laughter is warm as midsummer, his hands shaping the fertility of fields, the ripening of grain, the promise of harvest. Freya glides beside him, her eyes like the dawn upon frost. She speaks with the elves, dances among blossoms, gathers magic in her palms like water. But peace, even in paradise, is never still. The gods of war, the Aesir, watched the Vanir with envy. The Aesir ruled through thunder and conquest, through spears and oaths. Yet here were gods who needed no blood to create, who bent the world through desire, not force. Suspicion took root like poison in a cup. The first insult came swift as lightning, the burning of a seeress named Gullveig. 3 times she was speared, 3 times she burned, 3 times she rose from the ashes, smiling through the smoke. The Vanir demanded reparation. The Aesir offered arrogance, and so the war began. The clash of divinity thundered across realms. Fire rained on forests, waves swallowed mountains. The sky turned red, the roots of Yggdrasil trembled. For years neither side prevailed. For every field Freyr blessed, Odin sent a storm. For every wall Thor shattered, Freya rebuilt with spell and song. At last, weariness overtook even the gods. They met upon a frozen plain, their armies shadowed by the aurora's flame. Horns sounded through the frost, not for war, but for parley. There, under the green light, they swore peace. And peace, like love, demanded a price. They exchanged hostages, binding themselves in blood and trust. From Asgard went Honir the Tall and Mimir the Wise. From Vanaheim came Njord and his children, bright as dawnlight upon snow. Yet no peace endures without sorrow. In the heart of truce, seeds of longing still grew. Freyr, walking one day through the golden fields, saw her, Gerd, the giantess. Her hair glimmered like copper at sunset, her eyes deep as the hidden wells of the earth. She stood in a garden heavy with golden apples, and when she looked upon him, the wind forgot to breathe. Love struck him like an arrow, but in its wound lay doom. For to love a giantess was to love the end of all things. Yet Freyr did not turn away. He sent his servant to plead his desire, offering gifts beyond measure. When Gerd at last agreed to meet him, 9 nights passed. On the 10th, in the glade where frost met flame, she came. Their eyes met beneath the whispering branches, and the world itself seemed to bow in silence. But love is never without cost. To win her, Freyr had given away his sword, the blade that could fight by itself, the weapon that would have saved him at Ragnarok. In gaining love, he lost salvation. Dreams for war, the voice murmurs, laughter for lament. Such is the price of peace among gods. The aurora ripples across the heavens, green fire trailing through the black. Beneath her rides Freya, her cloak of raven feathers glistening in the light. Around her neck gleams the Brisingamen, a necklace forged by dwarves in the heart of the earth. It shines like captured sunlight, like the promise of beauty even in ruin. Her mount, the golden boar Hildiswini, moves through the snow in silence. Behind her trails the breath of centuries, the scent of longing, battle, and song. Freya rides between worlds, goddess of love and war, of birth and burial. To men she gives both tenderness and terror. To gods she offers what they cannot bear to name: compassion. The night stills as she passes a dark loch, its surface smooth as glass. The aurora shimmers above, and her reflection glides across it, a phantom of gold and black, crowned in sorrow. The water trembles, but her gaze remains forward, beyond the edge of dawn. Love, the voice whispers, is not gentler than war. It is another weapon, sharper, hidden in the heart, and both shape the world of gods and men alike. Her cloak unfurls behind her, the feathers catching the wind. One drifts loose, falls, turning slowly, until it lands upon the still water. A ripple spreads, faint but widening. Somewhere in that echo, fate stirs. Odin's ravens will soon take flight. The age of prophecy approaches. But for now, beneath the aurora's fading flame, the world holds its breath. Snow falls upon the tundra, each flake descending with the hush of a whispered oath. The world lies still, vast, white, and waiting. No bird stirs, no breath moves the air. Only the sound of ice cracking somewhere far off, like the breaking of a bone in the heart of the world. The wind rises, slow and cold, dragging its voice across the frozen plain. Beneath the shroud of snow, shapes stir, dark, ancient, immense. The mountains are not mountains, but giants turned to stone, their ribs jutting from the frost. Their breath lingers in the fog that clings to the valleys, and their shadows move like thoughts too heavy to die. This is Jotunheimer, the realm of the giants, the land before order, the wilderness beyond the gods' reach. Inside a cavern vast enough to hold the echo of thunder, a giantess moves through dripping columns of ice. Her hair gleams like hoarfrost, her eyes deep as glacial pools. She comes to a wall of black ice and sweeps it aside with one arm, the frozen curtain shattering into shards that fall like broken stars. Behind it, a lake burns, not with water, but molten iron, alive with a red and living heat. The surface ripples like a heart's pulse, and from its glow rises a figure made of shadow and flame. Surtur. His eyes burn like twin suns behind a mask of soot. His sword, forged in the furnaces of Muspelheim, glows with lines of fire, each rune etched by the hand of chaos itself. When he moves, sparks leap and the air screams. Around him, the ice melts into black rivers that hiss as they die. The narrator's voice drops, reverent as prayer. He is the first fire, the shadow of the end. His blade is the breath of destruction, his silence the promise that all creation must burn. The wind carries the cinders away, drifting through the roots of the world tree, Yggdrasil, where frost and flame meet but never blend. Beneath its roots, time coils, waiting, patient. In the far north of Jotunheimer, another figure kells beside a pool that glows faintly in the starlight. Mimir, the keeper of memory. His face is pale as bone, his beard stiff with frost. The water before him is still, but deep, impossibly deep, and within it flicker visions of all things that were, and all that are yet to be. He leans forward, the surface breathes once, and then he lowers his face into the pool. When he rises again, one eye is gone, blood frozen on his cheek. He does not scream. He drinks from the well, and the wind trembles. Knowledge seeps into his mind like cold into stone. He sees the stars being born and dying, sees gods rise from the bones of giants, sees the fire of Surtur reaching the roots of Yggdrasil. To know is to suffer, the voice murmurs, and wisdom is bought only with pain. In the shadow of skull-shaped cliffs, carved by 1,000 storms, the gods walk among their enemies. They come cloaked in mortal guise, travelers, wanderers, oath-bearers. Odin himself moves among them, wrapped in a wolf skin, one eye hidden, his words heavy with riddles. Around him, the giants watch with suspicion and hunger. Their laughter rolls like distant thunder, cruel and knowing. They tell riddles that twist like roots in the dark, riddles that bind as much as they reveal. Here, Truth is a blade with no handle. To hold it is to bleed. What is it, one giant growls, that devours the world, feeds on light, yet dies in its own birth? Odin's eye gleams. Time, he answers, and in the silence that follows, the gods realize the trap has already closed. For each word spoken here carries weight. Each promise is a chain. The gods barter knowledge for safety, oaths for secrets, and every bond will one day break. In the twilight, among frost-stung thorns and raven laughter, the line between friend and foe fades. A child, half giant, half something else, watches a figure pass through the snow. The figure pauses, turns, and for a moment the child sees beneath the wolfskin a man, weary-eyed and wise, carrying a secret too heavy for his shoulders. Odin meets the child's gaze and says nothing. The firelight dies, the night deepens. In a valley below, the giants gather. They raise horns carved from tusks of sea serpents, toasting the return of the dawn giant. Mead spills upon the ice, glimmering like gold tears. They sing of ancient vengeance, of the time when gods will fall and frost will reclaim the sun. They do not speak of peace, the voice murmurs, for in the heart of every giant burns memory, and memory is war. Far to the south, across the frozen river, the gods answer in kind. In the halls of Asgard, hammers ring against anvils. Sparks leap from molten bronze. Spears are sharpened, shields are raised to catch the light of the forge fire. The echo of steel hums through the halls like a heartbeat. They are preparing, not for tomorrow, nor for 1,000 years hence, but for the day that must come. The day Mimir saw in the water. The day when Surtur will lift his blade and the sky itself will burn. The snow begins to fall again, slowly, softly. At the edge of the tundra, dawn creeps upward, pale and trembling. The light spills across the frost, gilding the bones of the earth. In that light, a black raven descends, its wings whispering through the still air. It lands upon the hilt of Surtur's sword, its feathers catching fire at the edges. It caws once, sharp, hollow, and the sound echoes like a prophecy through the 9 worlds. The narrator's voice rises, not in fury, but in awe. This is the prelude to the end. The fire and frost that once birthed the world now circle it again. Waiting, watching, the serpent coils, the gods arm, the giants remember. And in the pause between breaths, the universe holds its silence. The silence before the scream. The raven takes flight, a trail of smoke in the pale light of dawn. Its cry fades into the wind. The snow covers the last embers, the last footprints, the last trace of warmth. Somewhere far below, the roots of Yggdrasil, the serpent stirs. Somewhere high above, a single spark falls from the sun, and in the space between them, frost and flame hold still, coiled like a serpent unlaced, ready to strike. A hearth fire flickers on the edge of a Viking longship, its light bending and breaking against the faces of men who have forgotten warmth. The scent of pine tar and salt clings to the cold air. The sea murmurs beneath them, an endless tongue of frost and memory. Here, in the middle of the world, Midgard, mortal men and women row between gods and monsters, between fate and freedom. Every breath is a prayer whispered into the dark. Listen, the timbers creak like old bones. Somewhere behind the fog, ravens call. They circle above the ship like omens made flesh, their wings wet with rain, their eyes sharp as prophecy. Beneath them, warriors polish steel and bite back their fear, bound not by chains, but by oaths. Oaths to their kin, their gods, and to the stories they will leave behind. The narrator's voice softens. There, beyond the prow, stands a woman cloaked in crimson mist. Her name is Brynhild, a shield maiden of the old blood, daughter of storms. In her eyes burns the calm of someone who has already seen her death. The morning light catches on her armor, each plate etched with runes that hum faintly with power. She stands apart from the men, a lone flame against the sea's gray belly. Somewhere in her gaze lies the sorrow of immortality, the curse of knowing that all glory ends in ash. Far from her, buried deep in the roots of a mountain, lies a sword, Gram, forged in secret, meant for the hands of one man only. Its hilt rests in stone, its blade sleeping beneath centuries of silence. The wind that brushes across its edge whispers names not yet born. And in that whisper, the gods hear the stirring of destiny. The scene folds. We are carried into a hall of horn cups and laughter that hides exhaustion. Firelight dances on the walls of carved timber, over the faces of men too proud to admit fear. Mead foams in their cups, gold rings gleam on their wrists. Songs of victory fill the rafters, but beneath it there's a tremor, the sound of doom tuning itself. At the center of the hall sits Sigurd, young, unscarred, yet already haunted. He dips his hand into the blood of a dragon, hot, black, steaming like oil. And when it touches his skin, the world changes. His eyes widen. Around him, the air bends. On the walls, runes flare to life, marks of fate that no man should read. In that instant, he hears them, the Valkyries, singing above the storm. Their voices weave through the rafters, through the minds of the sleeping and the drunk. Their song is not for the living. It is for those about to die. Threads shimmer in their hands, thin as hair, glistening with the sweat of battlefields yet to come. Do not fight your fate, whispers one. Only meet it, breathes another. Sigurd looks down at his blood-streaked hand. The metallic tang of mead turns bitter on his tongue. He knows suddenly that every feast ends in silence, every oath in betrayal. Still he raises his cup. Still he smiles, because heroes are not born to survive. They are born to be remembered. The hall fades, the sky darkens, a cry splits the air, the scream of an eagle over a fjord filled with broken oars. Waves crash against the bones of ships. There, on a shore blackened by dragon fire, Sigurd faces Fafnir, the serpent whose scales shimmer like hammered gold, whose eyes burn with ancient greed. The clash is not swift. Steel meets fang, fire meets flesh. The ground steams with blood and poison. Each heartbeat is a drum in the dark, each breath a struggle between man and myth. And when the final blow falls, the serpent's scream is not of death, but of revelation. Its body collapses, its heart still glowing, its blood hissing as it soaks into the earth. Sigurd stands trembling, his face painted in the dragon's lifeblood. He stoops, lifts a single ring from the hoard, gold, heavy, cursed. It gleams in his palm like a dying sun. He does not yet know that its weight will drag him into betrayal, into madness, into the slow burning ruin that always follows glory. Night falls again. The fire in the heavens opens, and the Valkyries descend. Spears like falling stars, cloaks woven from the smoke of battle. They walk through the slain as gently as nurses, touching each face, lifting each soul. The dead rise in silence, carried towards halls of light where songs never end. The living watch them, knowing they will join soon. On the prow of his ship, Sigurd stands alone. His cloak flutters like a torn banner, his sword still slick with fire. The sea before him glows faintly, neither night nor dawn, a threshold between worlds. The wind tugs at him as though the Norns themselves are calling. In his reflection, he sees not his face, but a skull wearing a crown of embers. He closes his eyes. Somewhere behind him, Brynhild's voice carries across the waves, soft, mournful, like the final verse of an old song. It speaks not of victory, but of remembering, of the fragile beauty that lives in the brief flare of courage. The camera drifts outward, the long ship a spark upon the water, the sea stretching infinite and black. Above it, a single raven glides, tracing circles in the dawn air. Its feathers are rimmed in gold, its eyes fixed on the horizon. It lands for a moment upon Sigurd's sword hilt, the iron still warm, its reflection flickering in the dying flame. The narrator's voice falls to a whisper. The age of heroes will pass. Their bones will sleep beneath frost and moss. Their swords will rust into earth. But their songs, their sorrow, will remain. For the stones remember what men forget. A hush. The wind gathers. Somewhere in the dark, thunder rolls, distant, ancient, as if another tale stirs beyond the edge of the world. And so the voice fades, leaving only the sound of the raven's wings. What follows will not be a song of triumph, but the long, slow mourning of gods and men. The dawn begins to burn. The next age waits. A low hum of wind, the faint rattle of chains. Somewhere in the dark, a single torch flickers, its flame bending like a prayer.
In a chamber, lit by wreaths of smoldering tallow, Odin sits upon his high seat, Hlidskjalf. The light trembles against the gold of his arm rings, dances across the scars that line his face. His single eye gleams with the cold reflection of distant stars. All else, the world below, the murmur of men, the cries of beasts, folds into silence beneath his gaze. The air here is thick with incense and smoke, the scent of pine and blood and old iron. Upon the carved arm of his throne lands a raven, black as the void between worlds. Its wings shudder once. A whisper breaks the quiet. Hugin. A heartbeat later, its twin descends, Munin, thought and memory, his only true companions. The bones of their feet creak against the runes carved into the wood, each groove filled with ancient dust. Odin does not speak. He listens to the winds that move through the rafters, to the voices that echo from beyond the mortal realm. He is the god who traded sight for knowledge, who bartered pain for understanding. And in this stillness, his mind travels back. The sound fades to a low thrum, heartbeat, rope tension, wind in branches. He remembers the tree, Yggdrasil, vast, terrible, eternal. Its roots dig through death, its branches pierce the stars. Beneath its boughs, Odin once stood alone, a wanderer who sought to know the shape of fate. And in that hunger for truth, he chose the path no god had dared. He hanged himself from its limb, 9 nights suspended between sky and shadow. His own spear, Gungnir, thrust through his side, the point grinding bone, the blood darkening bark. No cry escaped him, only breath growing shallow, only silence. The cold of the void seeped into him. The taste of mistletoe, bitter, dry, and sacred, filled his mouth. Chains clattered in the unseen dark below, and from somewhere in the deep roots, a dim lantern burned, a small, trembling light that seemed to ask, "How much will you give to know?" Each night, the wind whispered riddles through the leaves. Each dawn, his mind frayed further, unraveling into the endless dark. But on the 9th night, as his body broke and his will thinned to a whisper, the world itself spoke back. Through blood and pain, the runes came, drifting from the abyss, bright as falling embers. They seared into his mind, burned into his soul. Knowledge, not of peace, but of cost. Of the hidden order beneath chaos, the language that binds fate itself. When he fell from the tree, he did not fall as he was. He fell as one remade, a god not of dominion, but of sacrifice. Thunder rumbles, hooves strike stone. Now, in memory and in dream, he rides. His steed, Sleipnir, 8-legged and ghost-white, carries him between worlds. Frost clings to his mane, sparks rise from each step. They cross rivers of nightmare, through caverns where the dead murmur in their sleep. Odin leans low, his cloak billowing like smoke, his hands tight upon the reins. He rides towards the Norns, the weavers of destiny, Urdur, Verdandi, Skuld, past, present, and what is yet to be. He finds them beneath the roots of Yggdrasil, their pale hands wet with the waters of time. Around them lies a pool that reflects all things, birth, ruin, betrayal, and the long silence after gods have fallen.
The Norns do not look up as he approaches. They do not speak, they weave. And in their weaving, Odin sees every thread that has ever lived, glistening strands that twist, knot, and break. Some burn bright for an age, others snap in their first breath. He kneels before them, the damp earth staining his cloak. His voice, when it comes, is low, edged with the tremor of storms. Tell me, he murmurs, of the end. The Norns do not answer in words. They lift a single thread, shining red as embers, his own. He watches as they stretch it taut, then slowly, delicately cut it. The sound is like a sigh across eternity. Odin closes his eye. The taste of iron and future rain clings to his lips. He understands now what no god wishes to know, that all power bends, that all light must fade. Knowledge is not salvation, it is burden, and he carries it alone. The soundscape shifts, a battlefield wind, soft clinking of fallen spears. Dawn breaks over a plain strewn with the dead. Spears lie like gray grass in the frost. Ravens gather, feasting in silence. Odin walks among them, tall, cloaked, solemn. He bends to lift one of the spears, its shaft splintered, its point dulled by blood. He feels the weight of countless wars, those fought by men who prayed to him, those yet to come. He raises Gungnir, his own spear, skyward. The clouds swirl in answer, black and gold, heavy with storm. His voice carries through the wind. Let it come, he says. Let twilight fall. Nothing is free of cost. The words echo across the field, across the ages. The ravens lift in a black spiral, the world holding its breath. In that vow lies the seed of all endings, Ragnarok, the final battle, where even gods must die for the balance they once shaped. The music softens, wind howls through high peaks. On a mountain top wreathed in snow, Odin stands once more. The world below glimmers, ice, forest, the faint pulse of mortal fires. The wind claws at his cloak. He does not move. His eye fixes on the horizon, where dawn bleeds into flame. Somewhere beyond that light waits the wolf, the serpent, the end. But for now he watches. For now he endures. The raven circles once, then lands upon his shoulder. Its claws dig into the leather, steady, real. And in that quiet, as frost gathers on his beard, and the first rays strike the blade of his spear, the god of wisdom, the wanderer, the sacrificed, whispers into the wind a truth older than creation itself. All that is known was bought in pain, and all that is loved will one day be lost. A pause. The wind fades to silence. Then distant thunder again. A low rumble that feels like something stirring beneath the earth. The promise of fire. The promise of war. The image lingers. Odin against the dawn. His cloak torn, his gaze unbroken. The world trembles below him. Somewhere far away, in the land of frost and flame, a spark is born, one that will soon devour the heavens. The voice lowers to a final whisper. The vow is made, the cost is set, and the twilight waits. A faint sound, wax dripping into a metal dish. A soft crack. Somewhere laughter echoes, then falters, fading into uneasy silence.
The hall of Balder glows with the warmth of gold and honeyed light. Timber beams rise like ribs around the heart of Asgard's joy. The air is alive with song, with the glimmer of goblets and the laughter of gods. Yet beneath the mirth something trembles, a thin note of dread, barely heard but deeply felt. Balder, the shining one, sits among them. His hair catches the light as if the sun itself bends to touch him. His smile softens even the storms of Odin's gaze, even the steel in Thor's hands. He is beauty made living, gentleness amidst thunder. Yet behind his eyes shadows stir. That night in his chamber, the world presses close. The hearth fades to ember. The walls seem to breathe. Balder dreams, and the dream is not his own. A slow inhalation, a whispering wind heavy with prophecy. He sees the sky split asunder, the seas boiling with fire. He hears his name cried out in 1,000 voices, then silence. A spear glinting in mist, a flame devouring all warmth, and in the center of it, his own reflection, pale, still, and gone. He wakes with frost upon his brow. The dawn finds him trembling. The gods gather, and the laughter that once filled the golden hall withers. Balder speaks of his dream, and the words fall like stones into deep water. Frigg, his mother, queen of Asgard, weaver of love and sorrow,
listens. Her hands, once steady as snow on the hearth, begin to shake. A mother's heart does not doubt such omens. And so she rises. The sound of wind through 9 worlds, her footsteps echo, each one heavier than the last. She walks through Midgard's fields, through Jotunheim's frost-clad peaks, through realms of flame and whispering shadow. She kneels before tree and stone, before fire and beast, before every living thing that breathes or burns. One by one they swear oaths to her. "I will not harm him," murmurs the iron. "I will not strike him," sighs the stone. "I will not wound him," hums the fire. The world itself seems to promise safety, all but one. A hush, the faint, brittle crack of a twig breaking in frost. In a forgotten corner of the forest, small and pale, grows a sprig of mistletoe. Too young, too soft, too small for her notice, and so it remains untouched, unbound by oath, unblessed by her plea. The tone darkens, footsteps in wet leaves, a voice smooth as smoke. Loki finds it, the trickster, the wanderer with the smile of a man who has never been forgiven. His eyes gleam like oil under moonlight as he turns the twig in his hand. What grows innocent in sunlight, he shapes into something cruel. With a knife honed by malice, he carves from the mistletoe a dart, slender, sharp, and cold. In Asgard, the gods play their cruel games. They test Baldur's invulnerability, laughing as spears bend, stones shatter, blades glance harmlessly off his skin. His own laughter joins theirs, bright and childlike, as if fate itself could never touch him. Then Loki, masked in mischief, whispers to a blind god, Hod, gentle and unseeing, "Throw, brother, let your hand prove his strength." Hod hesitates, his hand trembling. Loki's fingers close around his wrist, guiding the aim. The dart flies, silent, slight, almost nothing at all. Then stillness.
Baldur staggers. His smile falters. For a heartbeat, the light remains in his eyes, then fades, like dawn retreating from the edge of the world. The hall erupts, not in rage, but in disbelief. Odin rises, his face stricken. Thor's hands shake. Frigg falls to her knees, the sound of her grief echoing like thunder in the bones of the hall. Low rumble, a raven screams across the horizon. Every torch gutters, every song ceases. The gods weep, their tears striking the marble like rain upon stone. From the iron gates of hell, the hound Garm howls, a sound that shatters the peace of 9 realms. Women tear their hair, warriors lay down their blades. Even the earth mourns, and its rivers swell with sorrow.
The gods bear Baldur's body to the sea. His ship, Hringhorni, the greatest ever built, lies waiting, draped in furs, laden with treasure, flowers, and weeping kin. Odin bends low, placing upon his son's chest the ring Draupnir, heavy with fate. Sleep, he murmurs, until the dawn that will not come. Frigg's hands linger on his face as if to warm him, but even love cannot thaw the cold of prophecy. The pyre is lit. The flames climb, reaching for heaven, devouring all beauty they touch. Sparks dance upon the waves like wandering souls. Crackling fire, then beneath it, the hiss of dripping venom. But grief breeds vengeance, and vengeance breeds ruin. The gods seize Loki. No more laughter, no more tricks, only the eyes of one who knows what he's done and cannot undo it. They drag him to the edge of the world, to a cavern blacker than guilt. There they bind him with the entrails of his own son. Above him they hang a serpent, its fangs dripping venom. Each drop burns his flesh, each spasm shakes the mountains. His wife, Sigyn, kneels beside him, catching the poison in a bowl, until her arms tremble and one drop falls. His scream shakes the roots of Yggdrasil itself. A long pause, then silence, save for the distant murmur of water. Far below, through shadow and cold, lies the river Gjöll. Its black waters do not move. Upon it stands the bridge Gjallarbrú, shimmering faintly, its gold dimmed by sorrow. Through the mist, Baldur's shade walks, quiet, radiant still, though his light no longer warms the world. The bridge sighs under his step. Beyond it, the realm of the dead awaits. And above, in Asgard, a single white flame trembles in the darkness where his hearth once burned. The laughter is gone. The hall is silent. The gods look to one another and see, for the first time, fear. Wind through broken halls, the faint creak of the world tree's roots. For something has cracked, a fracture too fine to mend. The death of the beloved is the first wound in the body of creation. And though the fire fades, its smoke will linger. The voice lowers to a whisper, calm, final, and sorrowful. The light has dimmed, but its shadow grows. The bridge still stands, for now, but the world has begun to break. A distant echo, the soft toll of a bell, a ripple in the black river, then silence. Soft crackle of flame, wind keening like a wounded creature through the broken spine of the world. The sky is a bruise. Smoke curls in the heavens like the breath of a dying god. High above, Yggdrasil trembles, its branches clawing at storms that no longer obey the old order. Ice groans in its roots. Ash drifts through its leaves like snow turned to cinder. The worlds tremble. Somewhere, deep beneath the soil of the 9 realms, something ancient begins to stir. A heartbeat beneath the roots of creation. A whisper moves through the cosmos. Ragnarok, the twilight of the gods, the dusk of everything that was sworn, built, and sung. A raven falls from the sky, wings torn, feathers burning. Its cry fades into the wail of the wind, and through that wind we hear the grinding of fire against stone. From the farthest horizon of Muspelheim, the fire giant Surtur rises. His eyes are twin furnaces, his veins pulsing with magma. The sword he carries, the bane of worlds, blazes so bright it eats the darkness around it. His breath is molten rock. His steps carve rivers of fire into the very crust of creation. He stands at the threshold, where flame meets frost, and he waits. In the sea's black throat, something shifts. The serpent Jormungand stirs from its bound slumber, coils grinding against the ocean floor, each scale the size of a hill. Water turns to poison around him. Thunder cracks like a war drum. His eyes open, vast, cold, unblinking. He tastes the storm, and the storm tastes blood. And from the iron wastes of the underworld, Fenrir, the wolf who was chained, snaps his bonds. The sound is the end of oaths. The echo shatters mountains. Iron links burst into sparks, and the monster lifts his head, muzzle slick with rage and night. His howl cuts through all realms, gods and men hear it. Even the sun flinches. Heimdall, the ever-watchful, feels the tremor on the bridge of the world. He lifts the Gjallarhorn to his lips, and the sound that follows is no simple call. It is the breaking of dawn and death alike, a single note that splits the sky in two. The Bifrost Bridge trembles under marching feet. The armies of the dead, the giants, the fallen, all summoned by that terrible music. And in Asgard, the halls of the gods stand in silence. Odin watches from his high seat, his single eye dim beneath shadow. He knew this hour. He sought it, paid for it, with pain, blood, and wisdom beyond mercy. He gathers his sons, Thor, red with stormlight, Tyr, the one-handed warrior, Freyr, whose blade gleams with sorrow. Each knows what must come. Each walks to his death as if to a homecoming. Outside the halls, mortals sense it too. A farmer grips his child as the horizon burns. A mother holds a torch that flickers in the rising wind. An old man kneels in his field, feeling the tremor of God's dying somewhere beyond sight. The world's breath grows thin. The air smells of iron and smoke and salt. The seas rise, the mountains fall. The ravens of Odin circle low, their wings cutting through the storm. Thunder answers thunder. Thor meets the serpent Jormungand upon a shore drowned in fire and tide. Their battle splits the sky, hammer against scale, lightning against venom. When it ends, the sea boils with death. The god stumbles 9 steps and falls, lifeless beside his foe.
Elsewhere, Odin faces the wolf. No words are spoken. No prophecy can be unmade. Fenrir's jaws close, and the father of gods is no more. The spear, Gungnir, falls from his grasp, ringing once upon the stone, and vanishes beneath the flood of flame. Then comes Surt, the fire giant, the Endbringer. He swings his burning sword across the world, and everything known, everything holy, everything sung, burns with it. Forests roar like torches. Rivers turn to steam. The sky collapses in on itself, blackened and red, and the last of the old gods vanish into their own embers. But death here is not stillness. It is a rhythm, an exhale, a cycle turning. For as the fire consumes, so too does it clear. When the storm is spent, a hush falls deeper than any silence before it. Ash drifts like falling snow. Where the great tree once towered, only roots and smoke remain. Yet something glows beneath the ruin. From the hollow of the earth, green. Tiny shoots, trembling, glistening with dew, born from tears of the dead. A man and a woman, Liv and Lifthrasir, emerge from the wood's shelter, faces pale, but eyes unbroken. They kneel, fingers tracing the soft new grass pushing through the ash. Around them, no gods, no thrones, no songs, only the low hum of rebirth. The world is a child again, crying in its first breath. In the stillness, a single sword stands half buried in the soil. Rust has begun to bite its edge, but beside it, a blade of grass curls against the steel, stubborn and green. And from somewhere far beyond the horizon, a raven stirs. It lifts its wings, black against the pale dawn, and rises through the mist, toward a light that does not burn, but heals. Because endings are not silence. They are seedbed. They are the buried root from which memory grows again. And so, as the sun returns, faint but rising, the world breathes once more, not as it was, but as it must be. The weave of fate continues. Soft wind hums through a barren plateau. The light is the color of dying embers, where sky and earth blur into the same gray sorrow. A woman sits alone before a loom made not of wood, but of bone. The strings she pulls are spun of spider silk and stormlight, whispering when touched. Behind her, shadows breathe, 3 figures, veiled and wordless, their faces half seen through the dim. The air itself bends around them, heavy with memory and prophecy. The voice lowers, reverent. These are the Norns,
the weavers of all that was, is, and will be. They do not write, they do not speak, they weave. Each thread that passes through their fingers hums with a life, a child's cry, a warrior's oath, the sigh of a dying god. Every motion of the shuttle births and buries a world. Urd, the eldest, traces with wrinkled fingers what has already been. Her eyes are pools of still water, deep and merciless. Beside her, Verdandi moves with restless grace, weaving the present moment. The flicker of a flame, the breath before a word. And Skuld, youngest, sits furthest in shadow, her gaze cast always forward, where even light fears to wander. What she sees is possibility, but her hands tremble, for the thread she holds does not yet belong to the living. The loom clacks softly, bone against silk, destiny against choice, sound rolling through the roots of Yggdrasil, echoing across frozen fields and sleeping kingdoms. Dust falls from the ceiling of the world, like the ashes of stars. Somewhere far above, a raven circles, sensing the trembling of the pattern. A young chieftain approaches the plateau. His cloak flutters in the wind, heavy with frost and burden. He carries a bowl carved from oak and bound in runes, an offering for the well of Urd. Kneeling before the Norns, he pours the mead into the still waters. It ripples once, twice, then settles into an image he cannot name. He sees a flame, a sword, and a shadow wearing his own face. "Tell me," he whispers, "is it victory or death?" But the Norns do not answer. Their hands never pause. The loom continues. The bowl slips from his hands and rolls into the dust, spilling what remains of the mead. The scent of honey and iron fills the air, sweet and terrible, like a prayer left unanswered. The chieftain turns his eyes upward. For a moment he sees the branches of Yggdrasil spreading above him, roots dripping with dew from other worlds. Somewhere within that sacred tangle, his thread glows faintly, golden and thin. He reaches for it and feels it slide through his fingers like mist. Far to the north, the dreamer of Asgard wakes. Sweat beads his brow, though snow drifts outside his window. He dreams of the loom, of strings snapping one by one. He sees his father's ravens circling a dark well. He hears a whisper. The web is loosening. He cannot tell if it was a warning or a memory. And in Midgard, beneath an iron sky, an old seeress bends over the snow. Raven marks stain the white ground, wings spread wide as if the bird had fallen from the heavens. She traces the pattern with her stick, murmuring words too old for the wind to carry. When she looks up, her eyes are blind, but they see. She knows that somewhere a thread has broken.
Smoke rises from a torch, scenting the air with burning spruce. The wind hushes. Across the frozen field, a sound, distant, hollow, drawn from the bones of the world itself, the tolling of a horn from Jotunheimir. Its note bends the horizon. The branches of Yggdrasil tremble. The Norns do not flinch. Urd tightens her hand. Verdandis shuttle strikes once hard, and in that strike 1,000 fates align. Skuld watches as a single strand, golden, fragile, beautiful, stretches too far. The tension hums like a cry held too long. Then, snap. The thread breaks. The sound is small, almost tender, yet it shakes the air like thunder. The glow fades. The wind dies. The silence afterward feels alive, listening. The Norns do not mourn. They simply tie the frayed end into another, folding the past into the yet to come. For them, nothing ends, it only changes shape. Below the plateau, the chieftain stands motionless, his breath visible in the twilight. He feels the sudden pull in his chest, as if the air itself has chosen a direction for him. He knows now his life is no longer his own. It belongs to the pattern. He gathers his cloak around him and walks toward the shadow of his hall, each step heavier than the last. Behind him, the loom hums once more. The threads quiver, catching the faint light that filters through the clouds. A shape begins to form, a spear, a crown, a battlefield swallowed in snow. The world above carries on, unaware that its story has just shifted. A wolf lifts its head in the distance, scenting change. A raven cries once and vanishes into the gray. And beneath it all, the Norns weave on, their motions slow, patient, inevitable. Each thread gleams for a heartbeat, then fades into the fabric of eternity. The chieftain's footsteps echo away until they are swallowed by the dark. The door of his hall closes with a hollow thud. The loom's shuttle arcs one final time, slicing through the silence like a comet across the void. The pattern tightens. The air stills. Somewhere, a god dreams of war. And in the roots beneath the world, the Norns sit in their eternal dusk, weaving, always weaving. For even the gods cannot unspool their own thread. The first sound is wind, low and alive, moaning through rigging and bone. The sea is a living thing, restless beneath the gray sky, its voice both lullaby and threat. Waves slap against the hull of a longship, carved with the faces of beasts. Its prow, black with pitch and old salt, cuts through the dark waters like a blade.
Each crest it meets shatters into a spray of silver that glitters against the dusk. Beneath it, unseen, the deep murmurs, a pulse older than the gods themselves. A raven-feathered banner whips in the gale, snapping with the sound of torn thunder. The oarsmen row in rhythm, their breath steaming through clenched teeth, their hands blistered and raw. The ship groans under the weight of the storm's hunger. The narrator's voice rises like the tide, low, fierce, and reverent. We have crossed into the domain of the Sea Lords, into the realm where storms have names and every wave remembers a life it has taken. This is the hall of Aegir, king of the deep waters, and Ran, his wife, the pale-handed taker of souls.
Lightning flickers beneath the surface, not sky fire, but the shimmer of phosphorescent gardens deep below. Forests of kelp sway in slow motion, their tendrils glistening with pearls of cold light. From between them drift Aegir's 9 daughters, born of wave and moonlight, each a mistress of the tides. Their hair coils like seaweed, their eyes hold the pale calm of drowned things. They move between the masts of sunken ships, their touch leaving trails of silver foam. In Aegir's hall, far beneath the world of men, a feast is taking place. The tables are carved from coral, cups hammered from shell and bone. The gods themselves once sat here, their laughter echoing through the water's skin, their goblets filled with sea foam mead. Yet even as they drank, Ran circled the hall, her net coiled in her hand, shimmering like a serpent's skin. She smiled with her quiet hunger, for she alone knew that every guest at her table would one day join her collection. All sailors, all kings, all mortals, dragged beneath the waves to sleep forever in her embrace. Above, the storm thickens. The longship rises and falls, each wave higher, colder, crueler. A young girl crouches beside a chest near the mast. Her hands are small, her knuckles red and cracked from the salt wind. In her palm she clutches a tiny carved figure, a raven, worn smooth from touch. She presses it to her lips, whispers something no one else can hear. Her father stands at the prow, his beard soaked, eyes fixed on the horizon. He has sailed these waters before, offered gold to the deep, sung the old songs to keep Ran's net at bay. But tonight the wind smells wrong, sharp, metallic, tasting of fate. The girl feels the shift too. She can sense it in her bones, in the hollow space where fear becomes prayer. Behind her, the sea roars, a mountain of black water rising, blotting out the faint light of the stars. The narrator's tone slows, almost a whisper. The sea does not forgive. It does not reason. It only remembers. When the first wave crashes over the deck, the world becomes chaos.
Ropes whip through the air, oars snap, men shout, swallowed instantly by wind. The girl's raven slips from her fingers, tumbling across the planks. She dives after it, knees scraping wood slick with seawater. The ship lurches, she falls, the raven vanishes between the cracks. Aegir laughs beneath the storm. His laughter rolls through the deep like a drumbeat of war. And in the dark below, Ran unfurls her net. It glimmers faintly, strands of silver, threads of death, spreading wide across the black water. Every drop that touches it turns colder. Every ripple hums with anticipation. On the ship, men throw offerings into the sea, desperate gestures of old belief. A gold ring, kissed and cast overboard. A carved boar smeared with blood. A lamb's throat cut upon the prow, its crimson mingling with the foam. Each gift sinks like a memory, claimed by unseen hands. The girl staggers to her feet. Her father shouts, reaching through the spray, but the next wave crashes, enormous, final. The mast splinters with a scream of wood. The ship cracks open like a rib cage. For a heartbeat, everything is still, the eye of the storm. The girl stands in the silence, her hair plastered to her face, the world spinning around her. Then, without fear, she leaps.
Cold, infinite, the sea closes around her like glass. The sound above vanishes, replaced by the deep hum of eternity. Her eyes open to a world of shifting blue, the bones of ships, the glint of scales, the slow dance of Aegir's daughters drifting toward her, hair flowing like current. A shape moves through the dark, vast, white, haloed in light. Ran. Her face is beautiful and terrible, carved from salt and sorrow. Her eyes gleam with the reflection of the surface far above. She reaches out her hand. Between her fingers, the net glows, trembling like a spider's web in moonlight. The girl's hand floats upward, reaching, not in terror, but in awe. Then the image fades. Foam churns where the ship once was. The sea swallows its own fury. Only fragments remain, a broken oar, a drifting plank, a single raven figurine, pale and water-worn, glimmering as it sinks. The narrator's voice softens, grave as a tide receding. They say Ran takes what is hers, not in malice, but in balance. The sea gives, and the sea takes, just as the gods do. Somewhere beneath, the girl opens her eyes one last time. She drifts past the glowing halls, past Aegir's roaring feast, past the quiet of endless blue. Her hand brushes something, the carved raven, settling beside her. And for an instant, she smiles. Above, dawn struggles to rise. The sky is pale, the waves calm again. The sea looks innocent, almost tender.
But the salt that dries white on the shipwreck's timbers still carries her name. A raven circles overhead, crying once before vanishing into the mist. Its reflection ripples across the waves, fading into silence. And somewhere, deep below the roots of Yggdrasil, Ran gathers her net, each new soul a glimmering thread in her eternal weave, as the sea sighs, eternal and patient, waiting for the next offering. The fire hums softly, whispering to the dark. Shadows bend and stretch across the longhouse walls, flickering like restless spirits. Smoke curls through the rafters and lingers in the wool of cloaks, in the plaits of hair, in the old timbers that have seen birth and death. Outside, the northern wind prowls around the door, clawing at the edges of the world. Inside, the hearth glows, fragile, defiant, a small sun in an endless winter night. A woman stirs a pot of porridge with a carved wooden spoon. The smell is earthy, comforting. Barley, goat's milk, a pinch of salt. Around her feet, two small children chase the shadow of her hand upon the wall, laughing softly. Their laughter feels like rebellion against the cold. The man beside her, her husband, sits sharpening a sickle by firelight. His face is carved with lines of wind and work, his fingers nicked and thick with old scars. Each stroke of the whetstone is slow, deliberate, like the rhythm of the earth itself. He murmurs a quiet prayer, then rises to the doorpost and traces runes into the wood. The knife bites deep. Thor, styrka mig, he whispers. Thor, strengthen me. The sound of the blade cutting wood joins the hum of the hearth. It is not just ritual, it is survival. In these lands, gods are not far away. They breathe in the smoke, walk through the fields, and listen in the silence between heartbeats.
The child, a girl with pale hair and frost-pink cheeks, leans against her mother's knee, eyes wide. She watches her father carve the runes, her small mind forming silent wonder. That night, when she lies beneath fur blankets, her mother hums a lullaby, the same melody her grandmother once sang under the same cold stars. The words are half prayer, half dream. In her sleep, the girl sees ravens cutting through the mist, black wings gliding across the sun. She sees a golden hall shimmering beyond the clouds, its roof made of shields, its gates guarded by wolves. She hears a hammer strike an anvil deep underground, a rhythm older than speech. Sparks rise, bright as falling stars, as dwarves labor in the gloom beneath the roots of the mountains. The sound of iron, the smell of sulfur, the heat of creation. A blacksmith stands bare-armed before his forge. His eyes are mirrors of fire. Sweat runs down his neck, mixing with ash until his skin gleams like stone. He lifts the molten metal with iron tongs, a glowing lump of destiny, and places it upon the anvil. Each strike sings with fury, with faith, with the ache of creation. The hammer falls again and again until the forge itself seems to tremble with the memory of thunder.
Mjolnir, the weapon of the gods, forged in the dark by mortal hands, carrying within it the breath of storms and the pulse of the earth. Its head cools in water black as night, steam rising like the ghosts of fallen warriors. When the blacksmith lifts it, a faint rune glows upon the iron, a secret mark of balance and ruin. Outside, the wind howls louder. The longhouse doors burst open. A man staggers in, cloak torn, face white with snow and fear. In his trembling hand, a broken horn. The lever binding snapped, the blood upon it half frozen. "The east fields," he gasps. "Raiders, a pact is broken." The fire flickers, struggling for air. The villagers gather, drawn by the alarm. Men, women, even children clutching sticks and knives. Their breath clouds the air, their hearts beat to the same silent drum. The old chieftain steps forward, weathered hand gripping the hilt of his sword. He does not speak of fear. He speaks only of oaths, the kind that tie men to gods and death alike. Outside, beneath the wooden totems carved with grim, beautiful faces, the villagers stand. Pine tar smoke rises from their torches, black and sharp. Snow gathers on their shoulders, and in the flames their eyes burn bright. The eyes of a people who have learned that even the smallest hearth stands against the void. Among them stands the girl. Her breath curls in the night. She holds a small carved raven, the same figure she once clutched on her father's knee. The wood is worn smooth, the edges rounded by warmth and worry. In her palm, it feels alive. She looks upward. Above her, the sky opens, a vast tapestry of green and violet fire. The northern lights sweep across the heavens, shimmering like the woven threads of fate itself. The light dances across her face, and for a moment the world feels immense. Not cruel, not kind, but awake. Somewhere beyond the horizon, waves crash against rock. Somewhere beneath the soil, dwarves whisper to their forges. Somewhere above the clouds, ravens circle a one-eyed god upon his throne of wind.
And here, in this quiet northern field, a single heartbeat joins that song. The girl closes her eyes, the lights ripple. The raven figure catches the gleam of the aurora, a flash of gold, a promise. In this moment, every life, the farmer, the mother, the smith, the messenger, the girl, is a thread within a greater weave. The loom does not rest. The gods watch, but even they cannot unmake what is made. The hammer will fall again. The horn will sound again. The frost will return. And somewhere in the darkness beyond the fields, something ancient begins to stir. The faint echo of war drums in the deep, the whisper of oaths not yet spoken. The girl lifts her gaze one last time to the heavens. The lights fold and shimmer like woven silk. Tomorrow, the winds will change. The river cracks like glass beneath the pale eye of the moon. Each fracture is a whisper of warning, each echo a ghost of footsteps long gone. Somewhere in the endless frost, something moves, slow, heavy, deliberate.
The sound travels like a heartbeat through the ice. Then silence. The world holds its breath. Far above, the lights of the north ripple, green, blue, violet, weaving across the night like the threads of fate themselves. And beneath their shimmer stands the great hall of Bilskirnir, roof of gold and beams of oak, fortress of thunder, the home of Thor. Inside, warmth roars. The hearth burns with tongues of red, casting amber upon the faces of gods and children alike. The smell of roasted boar and honeyed mead thickens the air. Shields hang upon the walls, each one bearing a story, each dent a victory, each scratch a memory of the wars that built the world. Children laugh. Their voices ring like bells across the stone. The god himself, vast and red-haired, sits at the head of the feast, his hammer Mjolnir resting beside him, its surface still scarred from the last storm. His belt of strength, Megingjord, is bound around his waist. His iron gloves gleam in the firelight, waiting. But beneath that laughter, beneath the songs of the skalds and the clinking of golden cups, something shifts. A tremor runs through the floor, faint at first, then stronger. The walls hum with it. Mead sloshes in the cups. The sound deepens, a slow, distant rumble, like the growl of a sleeping god. The children stop. The fire wavers. And from far, far beneath the sea, the serpent Jormungand stirs. Its coils slide through the depths, scales scraping against black rock. Its eyes flare open, two cold suns in the darkness. As it moves, the seabed cracks. The ocean trembles. Poison steams from its nostrils, frosting the waves in a shroud of death. Above the sea, the winds begin to change. In Bilskirnir, Thor lifts his head. He tastes the metal in his mouth, the sharp tang of coming war. Sweat beads his brow, though the hall is cold. He knows that taste. It is the taste of the storm before it breaks. The skald's songs falter. The laughter dies. The air grows heavy, thick with the weight of something ancient, older than fire or frost. Thor rises. His chair creaks under the motion. The hammer slides into his hand as if drawn by the pulse of his heart. He looks toward the door.
The others say nothing. They know what it means when the protector of gods and men feels the shift beneath the world. For a moment, he remembers his mother, Jord, the giantess, the earth itself. Her voice deep and fierce as thunder, her touch like rain on iron. He remembers her teaching him that the world is not to be ruled, only held together by those strong enough to bear its weight. Now he feels that weight again. He steps forward. The doors of the hall shudder. The air crackles blue-white. Outside, the sky splits open with light. Thor crosses the threshold of Bilskirnir and walks into the storm. The wind meets him like an old enemy, sharp, cold, familiar.
He strides across the Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, each step echoing through the night. The colors beneath his feet shimmer like molten stone, arcing between the realms, from Asgard's golden walls to the frozen shadows of Jotunheim. The bridge hums with energy, bending under the weight of what it carries, a god moving toward his destiny. Below, the seas churn. Lightning flares across the sky, reflected in the serpent's endless coils. Thunder answers thunder, hammer to scale, fury to hunger. In the black woods at the edge of the giant's realm, the frost breathes. The trees creak with ice, their branches rattling like bones. Somewhere in the dark, laughter echoes, deep, mocking, inhuman. The laughter of frost giants, old as time, cold as death. Thor pauses, head tilted. The laughter fades. Only the wind remains. A strange, hollow wind that seems to hum like a lyre strung with chains. The god of thunder clenches his fist. Somewhere in that wind he hears the scrape of an iron chain dragged across glacier rock. A promise of battle, a memory of what waits at the end of all things. He presses onward. Snow whirls in a furious dance, blinding, suffocating. His cloak snaps behind him, heavy with frost. The ground groans beneath each step, as though the world itself feels his anger. Then, silence. He reaches the edge. Before him yawns a glacial abyss, endless and black. The northern lights blaze above it, wild and beautiful. The air trembles. Thor lifts his hammer. For a heartbeat, the world stops. The hammer hums in his hand, runes flickering to life, whispering with the voices of storms unborn. His eyes glow with the reflection of that light. And then the sky breaks. Lightning explodes across the heavens, blinding white, carving rivers of fire through the clouds. The thunder follows like the roar of 10,000 drums. The ice below shatters, mountains split, and the serpent stirs deeper in the sea. Thor stands against it all, cloak billowing, hair aflame with stormlight. Protector of Midgard, son of the earth, the hand that defies the dark. And yet, even he can feel it. The pull of the end, faint but steady. The slow unraveling of the loom that holds gods and men alike. The serpent will rise again. The world will crack again. The storm will come again. For even the mightiest hammer cannot shatter fate. Thor lowers Mjolnir. The light fades. The wind falls still. Behind him, the bridge hums faintly, leading back toward Asgard, toward warmth, toward the illusion of peace. Before him, the abyss waits. The god of thunder breathes deeply, tasting iron, salt, and snow. His voice is barely a whisper, lost to the wind. Let them come.
Lightning flickers once more, reflecting in the frozen expanse, not as a weapon, but as a warning. The storm has spoken, and somewhere, beyond the veil of the north, the weavers of fate lean closer to their loom, their fingers trembling upon the golden thread that bears his name. Twilight drapes the world in silence. No song, no cry, only the slow breathing of the sea against a horizon of ash. Here, at the rim of all things, the air tastes of salt and smoke. Gulls wheel above the black water, calling to nothing, their voices thin against the emptiness. The world has ended, and yet something still stirs. Among the wreckage of gods and giants, amid fields turned to cinder and mountains split like bone, a pale light rises from the horizon. It falls softly across the ruins of Yggdrasil, the world tree, wounded, burned, yet not dead. Its roots tremble beneath layers of ash. Its branches, though stripped and scarred, still hum faintly, as if remembering the old songs of creation. The air hangs thick with ghosts, the echoes of thunder, the hiss of fire, the mourning of waves. But now the storm has passed. Only the faint crackle of cooling embers remains, whispering across the plains of Midgard. And through the smoke something moves. A single green shoot, fragile as breath, pierces the ash. Its stem glows faintly in the dusk, the color of hope made living. Around it, the soil steams, the earth sighs. Life, impossibly, begins again. The narrator's voice softens, reverent. From death, the seed. From ruin, the root. From silence, the song. Two shadows appear on the horizon, a man and a woman. Their names will be whispered through ages. Leaf and Leifthrassir, life and the lover of life. They walk barefoot through the remnants of a world once golden. Their hands clutch the small bundles pressed against their hearts. Their children, their future, the spark of humankind carried like a sacred flame. Around them, the landscape bears the scars of the old gods. The rivers run red with rust from shattered swords. The mountains groan with the weight of melted stone. The sky, torn by lightning, now hangs open like a wound. But the air smells different now, not of war, but of rain, not of blood, but of pine. The ashes cool under their feet. Leaf kneels beside the small green sapling, brushing away the soot that clings to its leaves. Her fingers tremble, the skin blistered, the nails cracked, but her touch is gentle. She looks to the horizon, to where the sun might rise again, and for the first time in an age, she smiles. Leifthrassir lifts his child higher into the faint light. The wind moves softly through the ruins, curling around them like a mother's breath. Somewhere in the distance, a river reroutes its course, forging a new path through the valley. The sound of it is like laughter after grief. The world exhales. Even in ruin, the voice whispers, life remembers itself.
The camera drifts through the remains of Asgard, a silent city of broken marble and charred gold. The great halls lie open to the sky. No gods feast here now. Only ravens circle overhead, their wings cutting through smoke like shadows of old memory. Upon the black stone of the palace floor, half buried in soot, lies a broken spear. Its shaft splintered, its blade dulled, the weapon of a god who will not return. Each gust of wind lifts the dust around it, like the last breath of a fallen titan. The ravens call, two voices, twin echoes, and then one breaks away, circling higher. It catches the light on its feathers, gold flashing against the dusk. It cries once, sharply, as though calling to someone unseen. And from the northern edge of the ruin, a figure moves through the mist. It is a girl, no, a woman now, the child once seen beneath the roof of the longhouse, the one who clutched a small raven carving against her chest as storms took her world. Time has carried her here, through the ages of gods and the drownings of worlds. Her eyes, once full of wonder, now hold the deep quiet of those who have seen too much. In her hand she still carries the carved raven, worn smooth by years of salt and prayer. She kneels beside the broken spear, places the carving upon the stone, and bows her head. For a moment there is no sound, only the whisper of wind through shattered arches. Then, far off, a low hum begins, the pulse of the world returning. The loom of the Norns begins again, threads trembling across eternity. The woman stands. Beyond her, a wall of ice rises, vast, ancient, glittering under twilight. At its base, a faint light flickers, soft, golden, impossibly alive. She walks toward it, each step slow, deliberate, as though guided by something greater than sight. When she reaches it, the ice stirs. A seam appears, a door unseen for ages. With a long groan, it opens. Light spills through. Not the firelight of gods, nor the lightning of war, but something gentler, truer, the light of beginning. A raven descends from the dark, wings outstretched, and lands on the threshold beside her. It tilts its head, watching her silently. She looks at it, then at the horizon beyond the ice, where the world waits to be born anew. The voice of the narrator becomes a whisper now, almost indistinguishable from the wind. From the bones of giants, new hills will rise. From the tears of the sea, rivers will sing again. And from the silence of the gods, humankind will learn to listen. The woman steps through the door. Light floods her face. The raven follows. Behind them, the world they leave fades into the calm of eternal twilight, no longer dead, but dreaming. The sapling in the ash sways gently. Its leaves glimmer. The ravens circle once more above Yggdrasil's wounded crown, their cries carrying across the fading sky. And as the wind moves through the ruins, A single whisper threads through it, soft as a mother's song, old as time itself. Endings are never silence, they are seedbed. The camera drifts upward, past the sapling, past the clouds, past the aurora spreading like a painted veil, until all that remains is light, rippling across the night sky like memory itself. The fire flickers, the sea breathes, the loom hums, and the story turns, folding itself into legend. A final breath, a final silence, and then the northern lights fade into dawn.